And he asked, in that way, Master Gautama, there is the preservation of truth. In that way, one preserves truth. In that way, we recognize the preservation of truth. But in what way, Master Gautama, is there the discovery of truth? In what way does one discover truth? We asked Master Gautama about the discovery of truth. Here, Bharadvaja, a monk may be living in dependence on some village or town. Then a householder or a householder's son goes to him and investigates him in regard to three kinds of states. In regard to states based on greed, in regard to states based on hatred, and in regard to states based on delusion. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on greed, such that with his mind obsessed by those states, while not knowing he might say, I know, or while not seeing he might say, I see, or he might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and suffering for a long time. As he investigates him, he comes to know there are no such states based on greed in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and the verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by greed. And the Dhamma that this Venerable One teaches is profound, hard to see and hard to understand, peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, subtle to be experienced by the wise. This Dhamma cannot easily be taught by one affected by greed. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on greed, he next investigates him in regard to states based on hatred. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on hatred, such that with his mind obsessed by those states, etc., he might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and suffering for a long time? As he investigates him, he comes to know there are no such states based on hate in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by hate. And the Dhamma that this Venerable One teaches is profound, etc., to be experienced by the wise. This Dhamma cannot easily be taught by one affected by hate. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on hate, he next investigates him in regard to states based on delusion. Are there in this Venerable One any states based on delusion, such that with his mind obsessed by these states, etc., he might urge others to act in a way that would lead to their harm and suffering for a long time? As he investigates him, he comes to know there are no such states based on delusion in this Venerable One. The bodily behavior and verbal behavior of this Venerable One are not those of one affected by delusion. The Dhamma that this Venerable One teaches is profound, etc., to be experienced by the wise. This Dhamma cannot easily be taught by one affected by delusion. So here, I'll stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha says that lay person, when he comes to a monk, before he can have faith in the monk, he should investigate whether that monk has greed, hatred, or delusion or not. And these states, if he has, it is evident by his bodily behavior, verbal behavior, and mental. So the Buddha is saying, when you come to a teacher, you have to investigate him in these three aspects. When he has investigated him and has seen that he is purified from states based on delusion, then he places faith in him. Filled with faith, he visits him and pays respect to him. Having paid respect to him, he gives ear. When he gives ear, he hears the Dhamma. Having heard the Dhamma, he memorizes it and examines the meaning of the teachings he has memorized. When he examines their meaning, he gains a reflective acceptance of those teachings. When he has gained a reflective acceptance of those teachings, zeal springs up. When zeal has sprung up, he applies his will. Having applied his will, he scrutinizes. Having scrutinized, he strives. Resolutely striving, he realizes with the body the ultimate truth and sees it by penetrating it with wisdom. In this way, Bharadvaja, there is the discovery of truth. In this way, one discovers truth. In this way, we describe the discovery of truth. But as yet, there is no final arrival at truth. Stop here for a moment. So here, you see these steps. It's worthwhile to pay careful attention here. When a person comes to a prospective teacher, first he must investigate him, whether he has greed, hatred, and delusion. And when he sees that he has no greed, hatred and delusion, and he teaches a Dhamma that is profound, then he places faith in the teacher. And then having faith in the teacher, he should visit the teacher often. And when he visits the teacher, he should be respectful. When he is respectful, the teacher teaches him the Dhamma. Then he hears the Dhamma and memorizes the Dhamma. In those days, they had no books, so they had to memorize. And nowadays, it's more convenient. We have books. And then examine the meaning of the Dhamma. And then when he understands, then he gains a reflective acceptance. And then zeal springs up. And then after that, he starts to cultivate the holy path. Applies his will and scrutinizes. And then he strives. And then realizes with the body the ultimate truth. Realizes with the body, that means he attains the jhanas, the states of meditative absorption with the body, and then penetrates it with wisdom. In that way, Master Gotama, there is the discovery of truth. In that way, one discovers truth. In that way, we recognize the discovery of truth. But in what way, Master Gotama, is there the final arrival at truth? In what way does one finally arrive at truth? We asked Master Gotama about the final arrival at truth. And the Buddha said, the final arrival at truth, Bharadvaja, lies in the repetition, development and cultivation of those same things. In this way, Bharadvaja, there is the final arrival at truth. In this way, one finally arrives at truth. In this way, we describe the final arrival at truth. Let's stop here for a moment. So here, having learned the Dhamma and cultivating the holy path, the Buddha said, you have to repeat, repetition, development, and cultivation of those same things. Then finally, you arrive at the truth. In that way, Master Gotama, there is the final arrival at truth. In that way, one finally arrives at truth. In that way, we recognize the final arrival at truth. But what, Master Gotama, is most helpful for the final arrival at truth? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for the final arrival at truth. And the Buddha said, striving is the most helpful for the final arrival at truth, Bharadvaja. If one does not strive, one will not finally arrive at truth. But because one strives, one does finally arrive at truth. That is why striving is most helpful for the final arrival at truth. This striving can also be said to be energetic effort. Energetic effort, diligence is most helpful. But what, Master Gotama, is most helpful for striving? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for striving. Scrutiny is most helpful for striving, Bharadvaja. If one does not scrutinize, one will not strive. But because one scrutinizes, one strives. That is why scrutiny is most helpful for striving. But what, Master Gotama, is most helpful for scrutiny? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for scrutiny. Application of will is most helpful for scrutiny, Bharadvaja. If one does not apply one's will, one will not scrutinize. But because one applies one's will, one scrutinizes. That is why application of will is most helpful for scrutiny. But what, Master Gotama, is most helpful for application of will? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for application of will. Zeal is most helpful for application of will, Bharadvaja. If one does not arouse zeal, one will not apply one's will. But because one arouses zeal, one applies one's will. That is why zeal is most helpful for application of the will. But what, Master Gotama, is most helpful for zeal? We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for zeal. A reflective acceptance of the teachings is most helpful for zeal, Bharadvaja. If one does not gain a reflective acceptance of the teachings, zeal will not spring up. But because one gains a reflective acceptance of the teachings, zeal springs up. That is why a reflective acceptance of the teachings is most helpful for zeal. Stop here for a moment. This one, in our Dhamma, reflective acceptance of the teachings means you learn the Dhamma, especially on the Four Noble Truths, and you understand. When you understand, then you get a reflective acceptance. And when this happens, you have attained right view. You've entered the stream. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teachings? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teachings. Examination of the teaching is most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teachings, Bharadvaja. If one does not examine their meaning, one will not gain a reflective acceptance of the teachings. But because one examines their meaning, one gains a reflective acceptance of the teachings. That is why examination of the meaning is most helpful for a reflective acceptance of the teachings. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for examination of the meaning? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for examination of meaning. Memorizing the teachings is most helpful for examining the meaning, Bharadvaja. If one does not memorize a teaching, one will not examine its meaning. But because one memorizes a teaching, one examines its meaning. Stop here for a moment. This memorizing the teachings, I mentioned, it was because in the past they did not have books. So they had to repeat the Dhamma that they heard, especially the Suttas. They repeat it. Then it becomes more familiar to them. Then from there they examine the meaning. But nowadays, memorizing the teachings, you can say, can be replaced by studying the Suttas in the book form. The Nikayas, you keep reading the Nikayas again and again and again and again. It's just like memorizing the teachings. Or listening to the Dhamma talks, like these. Dhamma talks based on the Suttas. I listen to them again and again and again and again. Then it slowly sinks in. That is equivalent to memorizing the teachings. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for memorizing the teachings? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for memorizing the teachings. Hearing the Dhamma is most helpful for memorizing the teachings, Bharadvaja. If one does not hear the Dhamma, one will not memorize the teachings. But because one hears the Dhamma, one memorizes the teachings. That's why hearing the Dhamma is most helpful for memorizing the teachings. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for hearing the Dhamma? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for hearing the Dhamma. Giving ear is most helpful for hearing the Dhamma, Bharadvaja. If one does not give ear, one will not hear the Dhamma. But because one gives ear, one hears the Dhamma. That is why giving ear is most helpful for hearing the Dhamma. Stop here for a moment. The willingness to learn the Dhamma, to hear the Dhamma, or to read the Dhamma, that is very important. Only when you understand the Dhamma and you gain a reflective acceptance of the teachings, then only you can progress to Aryan stages. If you don't hear the Dhamma, you cannot get right view. And if you cannot get right view, you have not entered on the Noble Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path always starts with the first factor, right view. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for giving ear? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for giving ear. Paying respect is most helpful for giving ear, Bharadvaja. If one does not pay respect, one will not give ear. But because one pays respect, one gives ear. That is why paying respect is most helpful for giving ear. Stop here for a moment. This paying respect, you see the Buddha mentioned, is quite important. Some people, they come to the Dhamma, they are very arrogant. They find it very difficult to pay respect to a monk. So if they have this kind of attitude, it's an obstruction, because if a person has this type of attitude, it shows that the person thinks that he knows everything, that he knows a lot. So he is not willing to humble himself. Only when you are willing to humble yourself, then only you are willing to give ear, willing to hear what the teacher says, instead of having all your own opinions. So this respect, also paying respect, is also very helpful. That's why, like in the Thai tradition, new novice monks, either samanera or even bhikkhu, fully ordained monk, if he is still new, whenever he speaks to the teacher in Thailand, they have to put their palms together, Anjali. Every time they speak to the teacher, the Anjali. And this tradition It's not only for disciples. It is it's a very good tradition. Even senior monks, like me, if I speak to a more senior monk, it becomes natural to put the hands together out of respect, to show respect. So it's very good practice to humble yourself. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for paying respect? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for paying respect. Visiting is most helpful for paying respect, Bharadvaja. If one does not visit a teacher, one will not pay respect to him. But because one visits a teacher, one pays respect to him. That is why visiting is most helpful for paying respect. But what Master Gotama is most helpful for visiting? We ask Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for visiting. Faith is most helpful for visiting, Bharadvaja. If faith in the teacher does not arise, one will not visit him. But because faith in the teacher arises, one visits him. That is why faith is most helpful for visiting. We asked Master Gotama about the preservation of truth, and Master Gotama answered about the preservation of truth. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. We asked Master Gotama about the discovery of truth, and Master Gotama answered about the discovery of truth. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. We asked the Master Gotama about the final arrival at truth, and Master Gotama answered about the final arrival at truth. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. We asked Master Gotama about the thing most helpful for the final arrival at truth, and Master Gotama answered about the thing most helpful for the final arrival at truth. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. Whatever we ask Master Gotama about, that he has answered us. We approve of and accept that answer, and so we are satisfied. Formerly, Master Gotama, we used to think, who are these bald-pated recluses, these swarthy menial offspring of the kinsman's feet, that they would understand the Dhamma? But Master Gotama has inspired in me love for recluses, confidence in recluses, reverence for recluses, magnificent Master Gotama, etc. So he took refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. From today, let Master Gotama remember me as a lay follower who has gone to him for refuge for life. That's the end of the sutta. So here you see this arrogant young Brahmin come to argue with the Buddha. Finally, he realized that the Buddha is actually an Arahant Sammasambuddha. So he asked questions to learn the Dhamma. So whatever he asked, the Buddha answered him very clearly. So in the end, he took refuge with the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha, which means that actually he changed his religion from being one of the Brahmin religion, became the Buddhist. So you see, like all this teaching the Buddha gave in front of hundreds of these Brahmins, probably most of them would have taken refuge with the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha and became followers of the Buddha. Okay, we end here. Very long tonight, very long. This last sutta is very good. We see how if a person wants to learn, all the steps are laid out very clearly by the Buddha. A lot of people we don't know all these things. Instead of like the Buddha says, when you come to a potential teacher, you should investigate him whether he has greed, hatred, and delusion. But a lot of people, instead of investigating the teacher, they want to look for psychic power in the teacher, whether the teacher got a big reputation and all these things. All this is not the way of the Dhamma. Okay, anything to discuss? Yes. The foundation of the Dhamma must be there before you can judge whether the teacher is teaching according to the Dhamma or not. The Buddha says, if the teacher teaches according to the actual Dhamma of the Buddha, that means according to the early Nikayas, then you can follow him. Otherwise, you should not follow him. So if a person, what happens usually, a lot of people who are new, they don't know how to judge because they have no Dhamma foundation. They don't know how to judge, and they are easily impressed by what other people say. Other people say, "Oh, Ho Liao Su Hu," and they will also accept that Ho Liao Su Hu. So Ho Liao Su Hu means it's a teacher with substance, somebody who is a great teacher and all these things. So that's why people who are new are always they get cheated in that way.
I think how long do one take to really comprehend the Dhamma, some solution to Dhamma, the form Nikaya? Can a person who say that they have time to do that,
how long one takes to understand the Dhamma, it depends on the person. Just like how long does one take to attain jhana, it depends on the person. What is important, the Buddha says, is that to understand the Dhamma, we need a clear mind, a mind devoid of the 5 hindrances. So, samatha meditation, that's why in the Buddha's teachings, is the only real meditation. We meditate to sharpen our mind. Then at the same time, we learn the Dhamma. These two things are the fundamentals of the spiritual path, the theory and the practice. The theory is the learning the original Dhamma of the Buddha according to the Nikayas, the Suttas, and the practice is the sharpening the mind by meditation. These two go together and can be done simultaneously. So as your mind sharpens, you will understand the Dhamma more clearly. So a person with a sharper mind, for example, a person with a high IQ, when he studies the suttas, he will understand much faster than a person with a low IQ.
So it's quite natural for them to be very attached to their views. And yet you see that they so into or perhaps so hard to accept the Buddha belief because the frequency is much lower because of the Dhamma.
Some of them, you actually, even though they learn wrong Dhamma, but they meditate. That's why you see, like earlier, the sutta on who this Brahmayu, I think this old 120-year-old Brahmin who came to the Buddha and then later became a disciple of the Buddha. And soon after that, he passed away. And the Buddha said that he was reborn as an anagamin, which shows that he had already attained the 4 jhanas. And so from there, you can see why some of them are arrogant, because they have already attained certain states of meditation. So they think they have already seen the Dhamma, that is their Dhamma. So that's why some of them are quite arrogant when they meet the Buddha. But when the Buddha really makes very plain the Dhamma to them, then because they have a very clear mind, they can accept and even like Sela, renounce, go forth as a Buddha's monk disciple. So it's unfortunate that they learn the wrong Dhamma, but those who had the courage and straightforwardness to come and see the Buddha and question the Buddha, then they became disciples of the Buddha.
One last one is would like to have a take on Buddhism who only accept one Nikaya, for example. now that they say that in Samhita Nikaya is older, they are advocates of only studying the Samhita Nikaya or Samhita Dhamma. So much scientific.
For somebody to restrict himself to one Nikaya is only okay if at the beginning you study one Nikaya. But all the time to restrict yourself to one Nikaya, I think that's really silly. When there are 4 Nikayas available, why do you want to restrict yourself to only one Nikaya? Because the Buddha taught so many suttas for a purpose. The Buddha taught about 5,000 suttas because when you explain the truth, you can explain it from one angle or another angle or another angle. So the more suttas we study, the more you will understand. For example, Satipatthana. There are some people, they just study the Satipatthana Sutta and they think they understand everything about Satipatthana. This is not true at all, because if you study the Satipatthana Samyutta, where there are so many suttas explaining Satipatthana, then you can understand it very much better. So it's silly to restrict yourself to one Nikaya. Also, as I mentioned last night, there are some teachers who are very possessive and they want to restrict their disciples to only hear their words and not to hear the words of any other teacher or see the books of any other teacher. That also is it just shows that the ego is there. If that person is humble, he will know that monks are not supposed to teach the Dhamma. Monks are supposed to teach the Buddha's Dhamma. We are all Sakyaputta, sons of the Sakyan. The Dhamma does not belong to us. The Dhamma is from the Sammasambuddha, Arahan Sammasambuddha. So it is our duty to teach the Dhamma according to what the Buddha said, not according to our own opinion. So to tell the disciple there is only listen to his words is just arrogance. It is not his Dhamma. The Dhamma is the Buddha's Dhamma, and the best source of the Dhamma is the original 4 Nikayas. And we know that the Pali Suttas, the Pali Nikayas are the most accurate that we have. Even scholar like the famous Professor Hirakawa, he says that the Pali Suttas have been preserved intact from the time of Emperor Asoka until now. So the most accurate source of the Buddha's teachings are in the 4 Pali Nikayas, the Digha Nikaya, Majjhima Nikaya, Sangyutta Nikaya, and Anguttara Nikaya.
Okay. I understand that one attempting to go for to be a novice for a year, maybe more, and then to be a monk. After you come, you need some 5 years to sort of graduate and understand all this.
You mean want me to comment about this? Or before a monk can be independent? In the Vinaya books, Samanera has to stay with the teacher. Samanera is under probation, so the Samanera cannot live by himself. And a young monk also, a young monk who does not have 5 vasa is supposed to stay with the teacher for 5 years to learn the Dhamma and the Vinaya and all the basic things. And after 5 years, that monk can be independent, provided he is knowledgeable about the Dhamma and the Vinaya. In the Vinaya books, the Buddha said, if, for example, a certain monk is uneducated and he cannot read the suttas and the Nikayas, and then and he stays with the teacher. He does not learn enough of the suttas and the Vinaya. Even after 5 years, he cannot be independent. He has to stay with the teacher until such time that he is learned in the suttas and the Vinaya. So if he is uneducated at all, he cannot be independent by himself. All his life, he has to stay with the teacher. Otherwise, he might be teaching others what is not Dhamma. He might think that is Dhamma. So, on the other hand, the Buddha says in the Vinaya books that somebody, after he comes into monkhood, after he is fully ordained, even if he does not have 5 years as a monk, if he wants to strive, meditate hard, he's allowed to stay alone. But preferably during the Vasa, he should stay with senior monks to learn. Other than that, especially like for example, somebody has gone forth in old age, and he feels he does not have much time, and he also has a good foundation in the Dhamma. For example, a lay person who has studied the Dhamma for many years, and then he goes forth late in life, then it is allowable for him to, for example, go and live alone in a cave and meditate and not mix with people. If a student, a monk disciple, he does not show enough respect and faith and all these things, it only means that he has not learned enough of the Dhamma and the Vinaya. So if he has not learned enough of the Dhamma and Vinaya, he should not become independent, stay by himself. Also, he should not accept disciples later on, even if he has 10 vasa, because he has not learned enough. So if a person actually knows the Dhamma and Vinaya, he practices correctly, he should become very humble. And his temper also should come down.
How long does it take for a teacher to assess a seminar? Whether it is the right level, whether it is quality, beyond day, is a month?
Generally, in the Vinaya, 4 months is enough time, according to the Buddha, to judge a person generally. But that is only generally true. There are some people, they hide their character very well. So you need longer period before their defilements show.
When respect shows the hobbies of the monk, is he allowed to look on the
in the Vinaya, when a disciple, a monk disciple, has certain faults, for example, not enough faith in the teacher, not enough respect in the teacher, not enough love for the teacher, no sense of shame towards the teacher, then the teacher, according to the Vinaya, should chase him away, expel him. So ask him to leave. So when that new young monk leaves, he goes to another monastery. Such a monk probably won't change his character. He go to another monastery, it will be the same. So in strict monasteries, if a monk from somewhere else comes to that monastery, that strict monastery will require a letter letter of recommendation to sort of to certify that this particular monk is of good character. So that is a good practice. So of course there are a lot of lax monasteries. They won't require a letter. So in which case, as the rotten monks come in also, they accept. So it's a good practice to ask for a letter if some monk comes, unless he is known before. Okay, shall we end here? Getting late.